Hi there. Today I'm going to make two videos because I'm going to make two recipes. Both are Italian and they're going to go together in my dinner this evening. So the first one is going to be Italian bread. And I'll tell you about the other one later when I make the other video. Anyway, the Italian bread. I wanted to talk a little bit about the difference between Italian and French bread. Now, both countries produce lots of different kinds of breads, but I'm just talking about a plain loaf. If I were in France, I would be talking about a baguette, because that's what I would use in a similar situation. Italians, you could shape Italian bread like a baguette, but they're not exactly the same, and this is the difference. The baguette, French bread, uses only flour, salt, and water, and yeast. Right, don't forget the yeast. Very simple, but to make the crust, the crunchy crust like we think of, at least like they have in France, it's a challenge. I've made those before, and some of them turned out pretty good, but this one is going to be a little bit different. I've made Italian bread maybe only once, many years ago. I decided not to use the same recipe because the main difference I've found in the recipes for French and Italian bread is that the Italian bread has fat in it, so, and a little sugar. So that's going to make the bread itself softer, and it's going to keep longer because it's not going to dry out as easily. In France, when we were visiting France, we would buy a baguette every day, at least one every day, and make sure we ate it all that day, because the next day is not going to be good. You got to get fresh made that day. Bakers in France will make 3 or 4 batches a day because the French want fresh bread, and there's a difference. So with this Italian bread, I'm going to take somebody's grandmother's recipe and I'm going to change it a little bit by changing the shortening, which she used, to something that's more authentically Italian: olive oil, extra virgin olive oil. That's going to be my fat. Okay, so we're going to make this by hand. I could be doing it in the mixer, but no, I want to do it the real way. So let's get started. First thing we're going to do is dissolve the yeast in some water. Now let's talk about yeast a little bit. In the United States, this is the most common way we buy yeast. They come in these 3 packets. It's active dry yeast. This isn't the only kind of yeast, but it's the most common in this country. Now each one of these packets is about it's about 2 1/4 teaspoons. Oh, I was thinking it was 1 1/4. That's right, 2 1/4. So we need 1 of these. But because I thought it was 1 1/4, I thought, no, I'm just going to open this. So I think I will. I'll just use this. I wouldn't buy it like this if you're just an occasional baker. But if you bake a lot, this is a really good way to do it, because not all recipes, especially European recipes, are going to call for that 2 1/4 teaspoon. This one does. I'm going to use my measuring spoons for this. So I have 3 1/2 cups of warm water, and don't make it hot because these are living creatures. You can kill them easily if you make the water too hot. So if you can put your finger in it and it's it's warm, it's not hot, you'll be fine. So I've got 3 1/2 cups of warm water. I can put it in there and hold my finger so I know it's not too hot. I'm going to put it in this large bowl. I'm going to add 2 1/4 teaspoons of active dry yeast. So I started to tell you about other kinds of yeast. In Europe, they use a lot of instant yeast, and the biggest difference is you don't have to soak instant yeast in the warm water. You just put it in. But they both work well. 2 1/4. Okay. And it's best to keep yeast in the refrigerator. Otherwise, it can die. Okay, so this is a nifty whisk. It's a Danish whisk I got when I came back from France, and I was making lots of baguettes and things. I saw this and I thought it was really cool, so I bought it. You don't have to have it, but it's a very sturdy whisk, as you will see. So I'm going to leave that. Usually you want to leave it for a few minutes until it melts, and sometimes until it foams. But if you haven't put any sugar or anything in there, it's probably not going to foam. So this recipe doesn't say you have to, leave it for a while. So we're just going to add 3 cups of all-purpose flour. Set that aside and get my flour here. Now in Italy, they wouldn't be using all-purpose flour either. They would be using a type 00 flour, which is like, it's a little bit less glutinous. I don't know why they would want to have it less glutinous, but it is. You can, if you really want to, you can take pastry flour, which is, it's actually a different wheat berry. There's different wheat berries. All-purpose flour is ground hard red or white winter wheat. I don't know if they have white winter wheat. Anyway, red. Pastry flour is less glutinous, and it is a, I think it's a spring wheat, a white spring wheat. Anyway, it has less gluten. So you could use, I think it's like 1 cup of the pastry flour to 3 cups of this, of all-purpose. I'm not going to do it. I'm just going to use all-purpose. So 3 cups of all-purpose flour. Just going to put it in. One. 2. 3. I'm not going to put away my flour because I know I'm going to need more later. So there's the flour, and then I'm going to need the oil. I need a tablespoon of this oil. Okay. And I'm going to need salt. 3 teaspoons of salt, kind of a lot, it seems like to me. I'm going to use my pretty pink, oh, I already have it over here. Use my pretty pink Himalayan salt. There's 1. 2, I can't believe 3. Pretty sure, oh yeah, I'm gonna need a lot more flour, that's why. Okay, and sugar. I need a teaspoon of sugar, just 1 teaspoon, huh? Okay, there we go. Now we're gonna mix that up. Wow, it says I should mix it with an electric mixer. I guess that would be a good idea. All right, let me get that out. Okay, I have my mixer here. I'm just gonna use this handheld mixer. It's fast and, you know, easier. So I'm just gonna beat this for 2 minutes, but I'm just gonna mix this for 2 minutes and then I'll show you what's next. I said 2 minutes. I don't think it needs 2 minutes. See here? And the reason is it's pretty well got all the lumps out, and I know that I'm gonna have to mix very well each time I add another cup of flour, and I have 5 more cups of flour to add. So forget that 2 minute thing. I'm going to add a cup, beat it some more. I'll show you what it looks like after 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 minutes. So I beat it for probably 30 seconds. This is after 1. I'm going to scrape the bowl sides with a spatula here. So this is after 1. See how thick it is? Okay. Here's the next one. After 2 cups, you can see it's pretty thick now. I forgot to tell you, when you first start off and the flour is freshly in there, start kind of slow or you're gonna probably throw flour all over the place. So that's 2 cups. And then here's the 3rd cup, and I'll show you what I mean. Start off kind of slow, and then you gotta turn it up, especially now. The 3rd cup, and I think this is gonna be the last cup that I can actually use my mixer for. Ah. All right, I'm gonna clean this up and get back with you. Okay, I cleaned up the beaters, and this isn't mixed well enough, so this was still 3 cups. So I'm gonna mix a little bit more. You can use a wooden spoon or a spatula. A regular whisk isn't gonna do this. I mean, it might have done it in the beginning, but not once you get this thick, gooey stuff. So that's 3. I gotta get 2 more. There's 4. And I'm gonna switch over to my Danish whisk. So this is where you start needing some muscles. All right. So I'm going to, instead of stirring my last cup in here, I'm going to put it on my work surface, which I have already cleaned nicely. And I'm going to knead it in, and I'll show you how to do that. So let's move that over. The last cup of flour. Just put it on my work surface. Okay. I'm going to push this up against the cabinet. Okay. And I need that spatula again. this needs to go right into the sink water for washing dishes. You don't want that to get hard on there. Okay, scrape the sides and dump it on top of the flour. Going right in my fingers. Okay. All right there. If you have a pastry scraper, you can use this. If you don't, use your hands or, you know, whatever. Seems to work for you. I'm just kind of flipping it over. There, now it's getting a little better. I think I should take off my watch to do this. So, here's what we do. We're gonna take the front edge, the top edge, flip it over, press it. We're gonna make our way around. When you find bits of dough, throw them in. So we're slowly incorporating that last cup of flour in. And then we're pushing. Do like this, push. Flip over, push. Okay, let me stop for a minute and explain what we're doing here. So, you know about gluten. Gluten is the protein in wheat. So when you mix a dough like this together, you got all these globs of gluten in there. You might not see globs, but that's what you have. And so when we're stretching, what we're trying to do is stretch that gluten into thin sheets. And those sheets, one on top of each other like that, that's what causes the bread to rise, because the yeast is feeding off of the sugars and releasing carbon dioxide, which forms bubbles and grows, and that's how you have your light bread. So if you've got all these globs of gluten, you're not going to have a way to trap that air in, or that carbon dioxide. So here we go. That's what we're doing. I should have removed my metal bowls under the cart here. I'll do that. Get back with you. Okay, I just set the timer on my oven for 10 minutes because that's how long we should be doing this, 8 to 10 minutes. So let's just keep on doing this. And when you stick, just put some flour on your hands. Some people do things like stretching it like this, folding it like that, or do like this. It's sticking. you might need to put a little bit more flour on. Don't use too much because you don't want to dry it out. A little bit when it gets sticky. And eventually, the stickiness should subside. Sometimes I actually use water instead of flour on the board, especially if I'm doing whole grain. Sticking. So if you see somebody, you know, in the movies, sometimes they'll have somebody kneading bread, and almost all of the actors clearly have never kneaded bread. I'll see them pinching or, you know, rolling or something. You got to put some elbow grease in it. Okay, I'm not going to make you watch for 10 minutes. So I did have to wash some of the stuff off my hands because there was so much dough I was sticking to this. I've been doing this for probably about 5 minutes. It's still a little sticky, but I wanted to show you after a while I start doing like this, like pull it out over like that. I really want it to stop being sticky. I feel like I'm using too much flour, but you know, what are you gonna do? Okay, let's do that move again. That. Put a hand underneath, pull it. I mean, anything that helps you stretch it and pull it back over itself. Stretch, pull over. Okay. Okay, it's been 10 minutes. So now I'm going to show you a test that you do to see if your gluten is ready. I mean, if your dough is ready. Well, the gluten. So we're going to pinch some up and pull it apart. And if the gluten is fully developed, it'll be nice and smooth. And this isn't. So I'm not quite there. I'm going to give this a couple more minutes and then I'll test it again. Let's have a look. I'm gonna go with it. So, gonna make a nice ball. My hands are a little damp, and that's okay. Actually, I'm gonna put a little bit of water here because you don't want it to get too dry. So I'm gonna leave that for like 5 minutes to rest, and then I'll show you what's next. Okay, so the recipe says to leave it for 5 minutes, and then, I don't know, what else am I supposed to do? Knead it more? No. It says to transfer the dough into a greased bowl. Now, a lot of people grease their bowls. I don't. I put a little water in there, because that grease is not going to be incorporated in the dough. And I learned this from a whole grain bread cookbook that I used to use. So I'm just gonna go ahead and put this in, I should have dampened this, the bowl. And since I didn't grease it, I don't need to turn the dough over. I'm gonna put a towel over this and leave it in a warm place for 2 hours, which is a really long time, but we'll see what happens. Okay, so it's been 2 hours, and I'm going to take a look at this bread dough and cut it in half and make 2 loaves. So first, right here, here's my bread dough, and here's the unveiling. Ta-da! Wow. That's a lot more. Well, it looks like a lot more than it was. I'm just going to wet my hand so it doesn't stick when I deflate it. Some people say punch down, and they punch. I just want to be nice to it. I'm going to just gently deflate it. And then I'm just going to scrape around the sides to loosen it up. All the way around. Or you could use a spatula, that would be fine. Now I'm going to lightly flour my board. Actually, no, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put it on an actual board because it's going to sit there for a while. I had some crumbs on my board. So I'm going to put it on this, but now I'm going to put flour on here, just like it says. Okay. So, sprinkle the board with some flour. Don't want it to stick. And then I'm going to coax this out of the bowl, trying to get all of that wonderful dough. Okay. Okay. There's that. And, yeah, it's kind of damp because it was, you know, wet when I put it in there, you might remember. I'm going to get my pastry scraper. It's kind of damp because I washed it. Okay. I just want to, you know, move this over. Okay. Let's sprinkle the top. And then I'm going to cut it in half because this is going to make 2 loaves. So. Okay, and then, I mean, if I really wanted, if I was selling this, I would weigh them both and make sure that I cut it in half, but it's pretty close. Don't you think that's close? Yeah. All right, so let me show you how to make it into a nice ball. I'm gonna flip it over, move you. Press the air out. I'm going to get rid of those bubbles. And this is just the way I do this. Some people do it a little differently. So I'm going to take this side, fold it over, press, fold it over. That. Get those bubbles out. I mean, it's not the most important thing to get all the bubbles out because, you know, these breads are kind of known for having the big bubbles. But anyway. I mean the big holes in them. So this is actually how I make a loaf, but I'm not gonna do a loaf. I just want a nice round, oh, I can see some bubbles. I want a nice round ball. I'm going to shape this a little differently when I bake it, but for now, there's that one. Set it aside. Let's do the same thing here. I didn't get any flour over here. Wow, this looks like a long piece, not at all a circle. That's all right, I'll make it a circle. You want to try to keep the top without any cracks, because you know that's going to be the top of your bread, and you want that gluten to just cover and create a nice crust. Ah, sticky. Shouldn't be sticky still. Okay, this one's not cooperating. So I'm just gonna make a ball. And I'll probably cut this out of the video. Okay. So when you have two nice balls of dough here, we're going to cover it with a clean towel, kitchen towel, and leave it for 40 minutes. I just realized that when I made these loaves into balls, that's when I was supposed to shape them the way I wanted to. So this grandmother shapes hers in these balls. I want something closer to a, closer to a baguette, not exactly, but I don't want them shaped like this. So I'm going to, they've been sitting here for 20 minutes. I'm gonna quickly shape them, and I'll probably have to let them rise longer than I was supposed to, because I'm gonna be deflating some of it. Anyway, here's what we have. And I'm going to get some flour on my hands, move this one over. I'm not going to deflate this. I'm just going to kind of make it longer, because I don't want it to be, you know, flat. I'm going to have to start all over again with a rise. So this is kind of a make around. So if I can coax it into something longer, yeah, that's more like what I had in mind. Not a total loss. And let's get this one, do the same thing. Just kind of, what I'm doing is making sure not to break the top. Okay. Okay, that's not too bad. So put that towel back over them and let it go. Let's see. So now the timer is set for, it says we have about 14 and a half more minutes. I'm probably gonna leave it a little bit longer than that since I disturbed it. Not a good thing to do. Okay, but I have to get the oven ready now. And what I'm gonna do is, I have a pizza stone. If you don't have a pizza stone, then you're gonna need to do this a little bit differently, but I'll tell you in a minute. So here's my oven. There's my pizza stone. It looks like I need to brush it off. I'm gonna put a rack in, well, the top one is fine. That's in the middle of the oven. So I'm gonna put the pizza stone on that middle rack, which is unusual. We usually keep it on the bottom, but I have a reason. So I'll go ahead and set it up, and then I'll show you. Okay, I have put the pizza stone in the middle of the oven, and I put a metal pan underneath it. We're gonna be putting some water in that. So do not use a glass pan underneath there, it will break. What we're gonna do, I'm heating the oven up to 450. Oh, that's weird. 450. I thought I turned it on. I don't know what I did. Anyway, so I'm heating up the oven to 450, which is very hot. Let me explain how this is going to go down. I'm heating up the stone. It should stay in there at 450 for 20 minutes before I put the loaves in, which is fine. That's, let's see, we have like 10 minutes before I had planned on baking the bread, but that's before I realized that, you know, I needed to reshape it. Anyway, so we're gonna do that. If you don't have a stone, a pizza stone, you can take a long, a pan that has a lip like this and put it upside down in the oven and put the loaves on top of that. I've never done that before. I mean, I guess you could just put it on a pizza pan or sheet pan. I don't know. They're recommending, and I have done this with baguettes, that I place these loaves on parchment paper and then slide them onto the stone at the right time. I'm a little nervous of that always because I think parchment paper says that it's good up to 425 degrees. I have some, let me check and see if that's true. .420 withstands temperatures up to 420, but I have done it at 450, so we'll see. I do have the option to use a pizza paddle. I happen to have a pizza paddle, and that's how Marty does it. You put cornstarch on the bottom, put the bread or the pizza on the pizza paddle, and you just slide it in. So I might try that. I'm kind of scared. I've never done it. Anyway, so the pan underneath, what that's about is at a certain point, when the bread is baking, you're going to splash a cup of water or ice, I've used ice too, into that bottom pan, and that's going to create steam, which is what creates a nice, crispy, crusty crust. So that's what we're going to do. It's going to be fine. Watch. Okay, so the bread has been sitting for more than 40 minutes. The oven is at 450, and I'm supposed to leave it for 20 minutes for the pizza stone to heat up for 20 minutes at 450. So I've got a little more than 10 minutes left. I'm going to get these loaves ready to slide into the oven. I'm nervous, but I'm going for it. All right, let's look. So here's the bread under the towel. And here, ta-da, there it is. Lovely. So it's fatter than I wanted it to be, but whatever. It's not a baguette. All right, so what I've got here is some cornmeal. And I'm gonna move this as far as I can over there. Because what I'm gonna do is, I have this, which is a pizza paddle. I'm gonna put cornmeal on this. The purpose of this is so that the bread won't stick to the wheel. So I'm gonna put kind of a lot, but I mean, not a lot, just, you know, be sure it's really nicely covered. And I'd like to do one at a time, but that's gonna be, that's not gonna work. And you'll see why. I need to slide these into the oven quickly, put the water in the pan underneath the stone, and close the door as quickly as possible so that the steam doesn't escape. So now the trick is, how do I get this onto this? Let's see. I think what I'm gonna have to do is lift it and just gently place it over. So that's what I'm gonna try to do. Gently, gently lift it. And I hope I have enough cornmeal. There, okay. One down, one to go. Let's do it the other way. Sometimes you have to improvise. Okay. All right. And it's sticking to the bottom, which isn't good. I don't really want them touching each other. Oh, I hope this slides. Okay. I still have, let's see. Oh, please work. Please work. Okay. I think it's slippery enough. I have 8 more minutes. So the only other thing I have left to do is to slash it. Now, I don't expect you, Anna, to have a lame, but I have a lame, and that's what this is. If you don't have a lame, you can use a serrated bread knife. Serrated means you get that little, you know, this little waves. Oh, you can see it better here on this side. There you go. That's a serrated knife. But I'm going to use my lame, and I'm going to go slash. Oops. Well, that wasn't lovely. Slash. 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 Yeah. And slash. It's not very good. Uh-oh, deflating. Scary. So you don't want to get it caught on the back end. I guess I'm not holding it at the right angle. That one's better. I'll do another one up here. Why not? Okay. So this allows the bread to rise more and I don't know, and what? Anyway, that's how you do that. So I'm just waiting for the sign from the oven. I've got 6 more minutes. All right, I'm gonna put the towel on top of that and hope it doesn't stick to the pedal. It's the moment of truth. Can I do it or not? We're gonna find out. So here's my bread, all ready to go. I'm gonna just see if it seems slippery by doing this. And it seems like it is. So here goes. I'm going to slide it onto the stone. And I don't know what you're gonna see because I gotta focus on this. Actually, I have to put this down. Oh. Tell you what I'll do. I'll see if I can place this over here so that you can watch and I can have 2 hands. Okay, that ought to do. Okay, here goes. Yes. And now, I did it. Did you see that? That's awesome. Okay, now I have to bake it for 20-something minutes. I gotta look at the recipe. Can't see it. Oh, for Pete's sake. 24 to 28 minutes. I'm gonna go for 25. Nice. Okay, the timer just went off. I'm gonna take out one loaf and check to see if it's done. And if it is, I'll take out the other one. So here goes. Let's put you there. There's the oven. Okay. That's a fat loaf. So what I'm gonna do to check it is I'm gonna flip it over. And of course it's really hot. Do this, and I'm gonna tap. That does not sound quite good enough to me. It should sound hollow. So I'm gonna stick it back in for just, I don't know, a few minutes. Maybe 2 or 3 minutes. 2. Okay, it's cooked for a couple more minutes and I'm gonna take them out. I'm pretty sure they're done. So, again, put you here. This time, I'm just gonna turn it off. Take these boys out. Here's the one I took out before. There's the other one. All right, wonderful. And I'm leaving the pan in there until it cools down. I'll take it out later. I mean the one that had the water in it. So let's see. I don't know, does that sound hollow to you? It's done. There it is. Nice, huh? So I'm gonna leave them for not very long because I want a piece of warm bread, but they need to cool down. So to have with my soup, I'm gonna slice it and maybe toast it. Oh, can you hear that? Listen. That's what French bread sounds like. You hear that crackly? I didn't know I was gonna get that with this Italian bread. Cool. How exciting.